All right. So thank you for coming. We're actually doing a session today on building a target language community. And what's really special about this session is that Karina Fielden is going to be facilitating the majority of the session today. I'll only be doing a couple of sections. And Karina was interested when I sent out that invite to everybody regarding what if anyone would like to help co-facilitate. If anyone would like to help co-facilitate the sessions that we were doing for the world languages teachers. And actually this would also be appropriate for ELD teachers, but all the examples you're going to hear are world languages. So we are, when I sent out that email to invite people, Karina stepped right up. And so we've been working together on this session that we have for you today. So I really want to extend my gratitude to Karina for doing this on top of all of the other work she's doing, because she is definitely not vacationing right now.
It's interesting.
Yeah, she's also one of our lesson designers. So she is currently working with Margarita Sanders on the Spanish 1 and 2 lesson bank for the start of the school year. So I really do appreciate everything that you are doing. And obviously, since we've been working together on this session, I already know what she's going to be doing. And I can tell you that it is fabulous and you're going to have a great time this morning. And so I believe, would you like me to share? I think it might be better if you share your screen, because if you're doing some of the things you're doing, it might be better if it's on your screen than mine.
Okay, give me 1 second.
No problem.
I got this and okay, so
you have when you're ready, you have the share button at the bottom of your screen, and then you can choose your.
I do, but you know what? I think you're gonna have to share it, because I am not seeing my screens here.
Okay. Do me a favor. I have a feeling I know what the answer is. And the reason I say that is if you are doing Pear Deck, you really have to be the one to share. Otherwise it won't work.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I can't do your Pear Deck for you. So we do have to work. So what I want to ask you to do is, first of all, if Zoom is full screen, just hit escape to get it out of full screen. And then probably behind it, you will see your Chrome window, probably in full screen. Okay. So you'll probably see your Chrome window in full screen. I imagine kind of behind your Zoom window, right?
It's funny. That's not what I am. That is not what I am seeing. And normally I don't have any problems with this, but today, because this has been my week, weekend, today I am not seeing this.
So do me a favor. So go ahead and close your Chrome window, open it up again, and then try to screen share again. Okay, so find your Chrome window, like going to the bottom of your screen and getting the Chrome thing to pop up. Click on your Chrome window, close it, and then reopen it. What I'll do is I'll start sharing for now.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, but I think whenever you wanted to get to the Pear Deck, we're gonna have to turn it over to you, or we'll just change.
But plans. You know what? Actually, you have access to my Pear Deck.
You didn't have any Pear Deck slides in there, at least as of 2 minutes ago. All of them were the regular Google slides. So.
Okay.
So I didn't know what slides you intended to do, because
right.
I didn't see any Pear Deck slides in the deck. And because of that, I couldn't tell what you intended. So, okay.
Alrighty.
All right. So let's see what happens. We might be able to work this out anyway. Let's see what happens. If you had the slides in there, I definitely could have done it, because I have Pear Deck also, but I wasn't sure what activities you were planning on doing. So as I said, we're going to be doing fostering a target language community this morning. And for now, I'm going to skip the Pear Deck part, because again, I don't see any Pear Deck slides. So I'm going to skip that part for now. And if they come up, I can always exit out and turn Pear Deck on, and we can get everybody in. So we have some guiding questions for our work today that guided the work that Karina and I did to prepare this session and really put the content together for you. And actually, we will make sure that you have access to the slide deck, so don't worry about that. And when this is posted in the Distance Learning Hub, it will be posted with both the slide deck as well as the recording, so that you have access to anything that is linked, for example. So our guiding questions that we used to design what we are doing today are: why is it important to have our learning community function in the target language? Not just our input as the teacher, but the entire learning community being in the target language. What are some strategies that teachers can use to build comprehensible target language into all interactions with learners outside of lesson input? And what if students don't understand everything? Because as it turns out, they won't, and they're not supposed to. So where does that leave us? If, you know, at what point are we drawing the line between that's too much stuff that they don't understand versus no, they're able to focus on what they need to focus on, and it's okay that there are bits of a complete sentence we used that they don't know yet, and that's going to be fine. Welcome, thank you for joining us. We are just getting started, so you actually haven't missed anything yet, and we are recording this session. And then finally, what about students? It kind of goes back to number one, right? What about students using the target language and not just the teachers? How can we get the students to also really own and use the target language in a way that is appropriate for their range of proficiency? What can we do to help students use the target language with increasing comfort and frequency, you know, outside of the learning activities and assessments? Because as it turns out, we're pretty good, you know, as language teachers. One of the things we do well is really support our learners to use the target language during a specific learning activity where they're practicing perhaps vocabulary or a specific structure that they're learning and that they're developing their skill in. We don't have any difficulty getting our students to use the target language for those. But what can we do to help the students use the target language when they're not engaged in that specific practice activity, but they're still in our room with us, they're still interacting with us and with each other, and we want them to do that interaction in the target language? So Karina, I'm actually going to turn it over to you now. Just let me know. Just let me know when you want me to change the slide.
All righty.
So let me bullet. Actually, well, no, you can't share that. So there we go.
Yes, I don't know. It's weird, but of course it had to happen today. So yeah. The first thing we're going to talk about is why is it important to have our learning community function in the target language and not just our input. So have our students be engaged and use the target language as we're going. So one of the things is that using the target language as the main means of communication in the classroom is going to allow our students the maximum opportunity to use the language for themselves. So they're going to start working on these, and we need to remember that the students are going to need to hear the language in order to speak the language. They're going to need to be able to read the language in order to write the language. And the next thing that we have is that by listening to and using words and phrases in the target language with other people in class, our students will be are going to be immersed in a natural use of the language, which is eventually what we want them to do, the opportunities that we want to be able to provide for them. And all of this has to do with mindset. So the most important thing that we want to do in our language classrooms is we want to create the right mindset when our students are in our classes, whether these classes are in person or whether they are online. The way we are going to do, and because of these, because we want this mindset, I think it's extremely important that we start with this mindset right off the bat, like right at the beginning, day one. We need to make sure that this first lesson, that, you know, the first contact that the students have with us establishes these expectations, the expectation that whenever you're here, whenever you see me, whether you're in the classroom or whether you see me on the screen, you have to use the language I am speaking to you. And also remembering this, that the most important objective is not necessarily the first day to teach the target language right away, but rather we want to immerse our students in the language and to start the process of establishing and reinforcing language expectations with our classroom. So this is not to say that we are not teaching the language. We are simply saying that right at the beginning, our main objective is to make sure that we welcome students into the target language environment, and that we support them and make them feel successful, that they're going to be able to do this as well.
So we're going to go into the chat now, which actually might give Karina and I a chance to troubleshoot what's happening on her end. What is one way that you use the target language with learners outside of the actual, for example, you teach the new content in the target language, of course. And when students do a practice activity, they do that in the target language. What's another way that you use the target language with learners outside of that, so that when it's not their specific practice time and it's not you giving direct instruction, they're still engaged in using the target language? What have you done to facilitate that already on your own? Because we have a lot of expertise here in the room. And since you've done that before, what impact have you noticed that having on your learners? So that's something you can go ahead and put into the chat, and you'll hear Karina and I perhaps in the background a little bit, seeing if we can troubleshoot. I'm going to stop sharing, but you'll still be able, no, you won't. Well, take a look at that question, because I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And that means the question will go away. I want to see if we can help Karina to be able to share her screen today. And the answers have started coming into the chat, so glad to see that. All right, so, oh, perfect. Krista, we're going to hear about sentence frames and scaffolds a little bit today. You can probably add some specific examples from your context as a ELD teacher for newcomers. So you're doing target language for people who really need to, you know, really start developing their proficiency quickly in order to progress and be able to acquire grade level content ultimately in English. And then fun posts, I like that. Fun posts on Google Classroom. That kind of goes back to what we were saying about in some earlier trainings over the spring about, you know, just building a classroom community in general, not just a target language community, but really using the features of Google Classroom, for example, to add enriching and interesting content that caters to students' interests, responds to their social emotional needs, and so on. Karina, I've stopped sharing now, so I'm curious. I don't know what happens, just by chance, if you get lucky enough to see if it'll change anything. What happens if you click on the share screen button now? What screens do you see?
No, nothing is happening. This has just been my weekend. Everything has gone wrong. My laptop crashed. I can't use it, so I'm using a different laptop. So
okay.
Yeah, so
and you're on.
But
that's okay.
No luck so far.
No luck so far. Now the odd request that I have for you to try when a computer is not behaving is actually to go ahead and sign out completely and restart your computer and come back in. We're gonna. Okay, I'll continue taking care of the chat. We might get a slight bit further ahead, we'll see, but we'll welcome you back in. See, hopefully, crossing our fingers, hopefully that works. It's amazing what a difference it makes, because we think that sounds so silly, but then it's like, yep, that was it. I needed to restart the computer, fine.
All right.
Oh, the other thing to try on your computer,
yes.
Are you using Zoom from the app on the computer or from the web browser?
From the web browser.
Do me a favor, since it's on that computer and you haven't done so, go to zoom.us. You might want to Google zoom.us downloads and download the actual app and join the meeting from there.
I will do that.
Okay. You can try that first if you want before restarting. That actually might fix the problem.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try that.
So, yeah. I know, Deanna, I was just going to ask Krista. Krista, do you want to hop on your microphone and tell us about barrier games, please?
Do I have audio now?
You absolutely do. We can hear you.
We're all having tech issues today.
I know. Welcome to Monday.
but now it's working. It was the same thing for me. I had a computer crash too, so I'm kind of rebuilding all my stuff.
I'm sorry.
A couple barrier games are so much fun. So a couple of them that I use a lot with my newcomers, and you can do this in a foreign language class too to get kids practicing. Put kids in partners, give them each a folder or some kind of office or a space where they can hide their work. And let's say you're working on prepositions. Give them each some pattern blocks and have them described how to their partner, how to arrange the blocks. And their partner has to follow along in the target language, and then they reveal to see how close they are. Another way I do with my young newcomers is a drawing game. Same thing, put up file folders or an office and have them describe how to draw a circle. Inside the circle, draw a triangle, draw 3 lines on the left. And then when they're done, they reveal. And it's always so much fun because they're often not very close, but barrier games are just any time when they have a barrier to the visual and they have to interact with language.
So it was funny because you'll see a couple of comments in the chat that is like, oh wait, we do that. We just have never heard that name for it before.
Well, and another one is Dictogloss. If you're familiar with Dictogloss, that's also a barrier game too. Not necessarily a game, but where you take a text passage and for the two partner A, you remove some of the language, and partner B, you remove different language, and together they have to make meaning with those missing pieces. So they have to really work together to put the language together.
I'm putting in the chat what that reminds me of. It's like it's close activity. Like a close activity turned into interactive between the learners, which is actually really cool.
Yeah.
There's
so many fun things to do. Those things are harder to do online.
I know.
So usually I'm the partner A and my kids on Zoom are the partner B, and then at the end they hold up their notebooks.
Yep.
It's hard to get them talking, so that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, and that's what Deanna just said. I was like, okay, I love that. Now, how do we do that in the online curriculum? So Krista said one suggestion might be, for example, that she's partner A and the rest of the class is partner B. Another way that it could work, and this is me not having had a chance to try it this way, so I haven't worked out all the logistics yet, but another way that it could work, because it's A-B, and they're not supposed to see each other anyway, so it almost works perfectly, right? Their distance is going to literally become their barrier, is to use a tool like Flipgrid so that it's asynchronous. You give them a range of time to do it. So it wouldn't be happening the way we would ideally like it in class, where we can control it and say, cool, this activity is going to take 5 minutes. No, you're going to give them probably a few days to do it. And then they would have a task that they work through by replying to each other's videos on Flipgrid with the next clue or the next statement until they finally do the reveal, and they can comment again in Flipgrid as to whether or not whatever the task was actually accurately completed the task from their partner. And then Raquel was suggesting a little bit of a follow-up on what Krista said, pick a student, they can be A and everyone else is B, and then change the student each week. So now you are bringing in the students as the interactive partners with each other. So during the Zoom meeting, one of the students in the class will be partner A and the whole rest of the class will be partner B. So that's another option. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Krista, yours are younger than most of our group. Most of our group teaches high school or sometimes middle school world language. Okay. And on top of that, most of our group teaches students who have fairly, at least on the conversational level, they're very comfortable in English, and they're all learning whatever the target language is, but they aren't, like, they could be a little bit shy because they're nervous about looking like they don't know what they're doing in front of their peers. But it is somewhat different sometimes compared to students who are new learners, new in a country.
Second graders are not shy, but my fifth graders, it's almost like all of a sudden hormones are happening and they
realize that they're being seen.
Yeah, they hate it.
I'm sorry. Well, and I wonder too if it feels differently for your students are newcomers, right?
Right, recent arrivals. I get all the recent arrivals.
So they're also trying to negotiate, on top of putting themselves out there in this whole new language, they're also learning a new school system, a new daily culture, a new, there's a lot there's a lot
And
there.
many of them come from trauma, so
Yes.
bonding and the socio-emotional stuff is really important. So
Yeah. So
again, why I'm here.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, if you tried having students do it, and maybe after you get, you know, we don't know still quite yet how we're coming back in the fall, but, you know, depending on what that looks like, you might, as you get to know your learners, you might kind of strategically choose who some of the student A's might be, right? As ones that you have already seen would be more comfortable,
right,
taking the lead in that way. Maybe, I don't know.
They're also the ones I rely upon to help translate.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And at Dyer Kelly, for you, do you have is it still like Pashto Dari as one of the biggest language groups?
Farsi, Dari, Pashto, a little bit of Ukrainian and Russian, a few Spanish speakers, but I can communicate with them, but mostly Pashto, Dari, Farsi.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to see if we've made some magic happen for Karina. Her audio is connecting right now, but we're going to see what happens if you push the share button now, Karina. The moment of truth.
Oh, I think it might work. Look at that.
It worked?
It might.
Okay, let's see. Have you already opened your Chrome too, right? Like you've already gotten your slide deck open?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see what happens.
She's not a host. Can she share screen?
Yes, she probably can because, but I did mean to make her co-host anyway. I have my settings.
Maybe that was the fix, but.
Then what we recommend for students, since I only work with adults, so I have it set up to where screen sharing is always available. That way, if someone drops in with a problem, they can share their screen immediately so I can see what's happening.
Got it.
Yeah.
Trying to help.
No, I agree. Thank you so much. It was a great point.
Okay.
Do you see any screens, Karina? When you click share?
This is what's happening with me right now. Since Friday, it's more slow. So.
Oh, that's okay too. Did you have a chance to download the app? Oh, you're sharing.
Can you see my screen?
I sure can.
Okay, well, let's try this. Let's see if we can get everybody to go to joinpd.com.
So those of you in Zoom, if you haven't done this before, you'll kind of need to open up your Chrome window and just listen to her because you won't be seeing Zoom anymore. But if you go to joinpd.com in a new tab, she'll give you the code in just a second.
Correct. So you
code in the chat.
Go to joinpd.com and then enter this code.
I'm going to put it in the chat, but I'm going to say it out loud because they're not looking at your screen anymore. Karina, they're in Chrome. So VJP like Paul, IR is the code. So joinpd.com. Someone just joined us actually. Joinpd.com because we're going, there's the pair. See, I didn't see any of those slides. Joinpd.com. Wow. And then the code when you get to joinpd.com is VJPIR so that you can interact with the slide deck. Pear Deck, as we wait for people to join in, Pear Deck is a freemium tool, meaning that it has features available for free at any time to you, whether you buy a license or not. And then it has features you can only access if you buy a license. The slides are fine. So the things you're going to do today, you could do with students. The pay version is necessary if you want to have what's called the teacher dashboard. And it's also necessary, and this is important to teachers, it's also necessary if you want to actually be able to give feedback directly to your learners. In the free version, you won't be able to do that. And then to individual learners. And it's necessary if you want to use their newest feature, which is a really easy way now to add audio to any slide in your presentation so that there's a little audio button for that. Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have 5 people on Pear Deck already. Does that sound about right?
That does. I'm going to stay in Zoom. I can see your screen, but that way if something happens and someone goes into the chat to tell me they're having a problem or a question, I'll still see it.
Okay, well, I wanted to use per deck because I think it's a fun thing to be able to see what per deck looks like for a student. So, so this is if you haven't used per deck, this is what you will see when you are working with a synchronous lesson. You have probably used per deck in an asynchronous way, but in this way you are seeing the slides at the same time that I am, and this is pretty much what you see. So we're going to start with the class. With the slides right now, and as you see, the slide is very simple, right? La fecha, the date. Hoy es lunes 13 de julio. Buenos días or bonjour, whatever applies. And then we're going to go to the next slide. Or is it rather buenos días and bonjour this way? So go ahead and drag the exclamation mark to the image that best describes you right now.
The exclamation mark is at the bottom of your screen.
And if I go over to show responses, then I am able to see this. So if you are using per deck in a synchronous way, you are able to see what your students are responding, how your students are responding right away, which I think it's a fun way to get, to get instant feedback and see, and see if the kids are engaged, or, if people are actually paying attention to the things that you are asking them to do. Next, we are going to go with some input. So this is something that you would say if you have per deck in your slide on your computer right now. You can go ahead and click the audio and go ahead and do the activity. This is what the students see when you do an interactive per deck slide like this.
For those of you who don't speak Spanish, and I know we have at least one person in the room who does not, so this is entirely in Spanish, but if you do this in your own language class, it would work perfectly well in your language, because basically after day one, they can do this and answer the question. So it says, hi, my name is Karina, and you, what is, and then in the box, it says in red, what is your name? And then it says write here, as in write your answer here. And when the students click, they'll be able to type their name inside of that, and she'll be able to show responses.
And there you go. Look at that. We have a complete sentence from Lisa. Muy bien, Lisa. A+. And Diana also. There you go. So you can see what your students are saying, and you can either do this layout over here, or you can try to see them all a little bit more condensed, and you will see them this way. So, hola, me llamo Lisa, Raquel, Diana, Krista. Nice to have you all here.
Nice.
And then the next one would be this. Yo trabajo en Del Campo High School. ¿Y tú dónde trabajas? And the reason why I didn't put any translation is here is because you can see what I wrote over there. You can guess what I am doing. As most of you are French teachers. Travel, am I right?
But actually we have two ASL, we're pretty split. We have two American Sign Language teachers, a Chinese teacher, and then I've lost track of my participants. How many French teachers? Not sure. Deanna and myself for French. Aurora, I'm so sorry, I have forgotten. I believe you teach Spanish, but I have forgotten. So yeah, we're not mostly French teachers.
Oh, there you go. Nice variety. And again, then I can go ahead and see the responses over here. Yo trabajo en Bella Vista High School. Yo trabajo en Dyer Kelly, Del Campo, Bella Vista. Oh, that's Raquel right there. Mm-hmm. And you can see that someone is working on his or her answer right now. Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. So now you can see what it's like from a teacher's perspective and from a student's perspective to use an interactive per deck slide. One of the last ones, we're almost done. Yo enseño español. Yo enseño español. Yo soy maestra de español. ¿Y tú qué enseñas? Now this is a little bit different. You have to drag the circle that you have to show what it is that you teach. And I'm gonna take a look and see how you guys are doing, and we can see all those dots moving. There you go. So it looks like this, that we have two ASL teachers right there, Lisa and Raquel. One French teacher joining us, and two teachers that two people that teach something other than English, as other than French, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, or ASL. And this must be our English language teachers.
Yes.
And now, hola, yo me llamo Karina, yo trabajo en el Campo High School y yo enseño español. ¿Y tú? 3 preguntas. ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Dónde trabajas? ¿Qué enseñas? So can we go ahead and do that following the example that we have?
What I love about this is one of the things that she's modeling as you work on it is she's modeling how it was broken up into individual tasks. And we did go very quickly today, but working with what we know for novice learners of language, it's their world and what's about them. So you wouldn't ask students where they work, for example, or what they teach, but you would ask appropriate questions to them. But she did each one as an individual task, gave you a chance to practice. You're literally just doing the same task over, but now it's starting to be a series of short memorized sentences so that you're communicating a larger chunk of information at once.
Exactly. And look at that. Look at all these people, proficient. Me llamo Krista, trabajo en look at that, exactly, perfect. Yo enseño inglés, me llamo Aurora, trabajo en Howie, enseño preescolar. Me llamo Lisa, trabajo en Bella Vista y yo enseño ASL. Yo me llamo Diana, yo trabajo en Bella Vista y yo enseño francés.
And I like what Raquel is showing us something interesting that's also important. And we know our focus today is target language use by students in a full target language community. But one of the things we do recognize in our learners, even while we're still going to keep trying to get them to the point of using the target language, is when they are eager to show us that they understood. They know what you wanted them to do. They just don't know yet how to make it work in the target language. Exactly. So they are, Raquel just put in the chat, I did what my students would do. So that there is some value here. What I see from this as a teacher is that Raquel completely understands the phrases and what they mean, and may need more support or more encouragement to see how to use the pattern in order to respond in the target language. But it's not a total fail, and we don't want students to think that it is. We want to celebrate what they can do. That student can understand the prompts and what they mean and what the answers ought to be, just not ready to do it in the target language yet.
Exactly. But as you said, it is also a great opportunity for us to commend that student, because that student is taking the step. This student is not ignoring your question. It is answering. It is answering the question in his or her own way, but it is still, it's getting his feet wet, and we have to make sure that we celebrate that, as Nicole said. And here we go with our last one. So it is wonderful to see you all here this morning. Today we're going to talk about fostering target language learning community. Are you ready to start? Go ahead and select your options. Now, I love doing this in quizzes and tests when I have when the question is obviously going to be no or obviously going to be yes. I just like giving them different options that mean the same thing, so they don't have a way to say otherwise. And it is funny to see how much the kids pay attention to that, and they're like, Mrs. Fielden, you didn't give me the option to say this or to say that. I'm like, no, because I didn't want to hear that. So there you go. It's just just something that that the students that the students appreciate. And that was it. So we are done with our per deck. I just wanted to do that little warm up so that you can see what it is to use per deck as a student, and be able to see also what it looks like when you are teaching it in a synchronous way. All right. So Nicole, do you want to take over from here?
Yeah. Why don't you? Actually, I don't have a memory of exactly what's next, can you show the next screen in the regular slide deck for me? It might still be you.
Yes.
It might be me. I don't recall now. So if you go back to Chrome and go to your slide deck. Let's see Chrome down there.
So
try escaping that. So hit end. There we go. And then can you, there
so
we
we did this, we did the chat.
Oh, are we at, let's go
Alrighty.
to slide 7. Let's go to slide 7. Yeah. Yep,
Yes.
this is you. Keep on going.
Alrighty, so this one, one of the questions that we had was, how can we promote the use of the target language right from the start? So we just jot down a few things that we can do at the beginning of the year. And as we said, setting up the tone and starting right away with the use of the target language is going to make things a lot easier for us. It's going to make it easier on us, and it's going to make it easier on our students, because we're going to create these mindset and these expectations that whenever the student comes into your classroom, or whenever the student is with you in Zoom, the student is going to know, oh, it's time for Spanish, or it's time for Chinese, or it's time for English, or it's time for ASL. So some of the things that we can begin doing from the beginning of the year are daily greetings and introductions. Hi, my name is, what is your name? And you repeat this 10 times, and 10 kids get the chance to answer these, and everybody's hearing the same thing over and over and over again, right? The same thing with introductions. My name is, I am from, I live in, I study this, or I go to this school. I do like to use calendar and weather, and I call this, the small talk. I do not teach my students the days of the week as an isolated thing. So nowhere during the year do I say, this is Monday, this is Tuesday. I simply give them the day. The date is posted on the board, and I go over the date every single day. And then, by the end of the week, I can tell my students, today is, yesterday was, tomorrow is, and excuse me, and ask my students the same question. Hey, what day is today? Is today Monday? No, today is not Monday. Is today Tuesday? Yes, today is Tuesday. Or what day is tomorrow? So these are very very simple things that we can do, but if we do these on a daily basis, this is language that our students are going to acquire, that they're just going to, that they're going to soak in, and that they are going to feel that they're going to expect. And by expecting it, they're going to know that this is the norm, and they are going to be much more okay with using the target language in your classroom. If this is the expectation, and if the target language is the norm. And again, these are some of the ideas, some of the things that we can do. I am sure that you guys have other ones, and much better ones. Go ahead and put them in the chat. For higher levels, something that I like to do is I like to use a card talk, which I just instruct my students to get some paper and draw 4 things that they did this summer, and 1 thing that they didn't, for instance. And then we have someone talk about that paper, because you can use the predicate. It's different. Than with higher levels, you can do many more things. Write and discuss, 2 truths and a lie. So for higher levels, I think once we have higher levels, we open the door to many more possibilities than when we have these beginners in our classroom. But from the moment they're beginners, we have to make sure that they expect us to use the target language, that they know they are expected to use the target language, and that we give them enough repetition for them to feel comfortable repeating, what we've been telling them, what it is that they have been hearing.
Don't move yet. Can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I wanted to bring out from what Karina just said was, she had mentioned that when the students don't study, the students don't study vocabulary for the days of the week as an isolated incident because they don't need to, because they're going to acquire it naturally the way they learned their first language, just through the way it is used contextually. And that is important, that that's not limited to calendar and weather. This is why when, you know, from day one, when I had my students in French class, I speak to them entirely in French for virtually everything. You know, there's a kind of a range nationally, our national standards, and they're mirrored in our state standards, say your target is 90% plus in the target language for both you and the students. But there is a wiggle room for when you have to explain something to be more efficient. But the reason for that is there are a lot of things your students will acquire naturally and not ultimately either they don't need to explicitly be taught, or when you do decide to go ahead and teach that particular topic, including grammatical structures, they'll have already acquired it and it will be much easier for them to learn. So I've given this example before about how from the beginning of French 1 all the way through their time, because I speak to them in French, I'm using complete sentences. There are lots of grammar things that the kids have no clue what I'm doing, and they don't need to. But by the time they're in French 4, every single year, I have had students who naturally start using the kind of complex pronouns for that which, and so on, that connect two complex ideas together. Naturally, they don't know, it's like a native speaker. They don't know why it works. They just know that this is what I have to say in this situation. If there's a verb after it, and if there's not a verb, I say it this way. And it's because they've heard it all the time because I needed to use it in order for my sentences to work. And that's one of the really key things, is we actually are giving them the tools to speak the target language if we do it also. If the more we speak English or whatever other language, you know, because we do have an ELD teacher in here, but the more we speak a language that is not the target language to them, it's actually making it harder for them to get the amount of immersion, the amount of contextualized input that they are going to need in order to be able to use the target language themselves. The only other thing I want to draw out from what Karina said with the card talk, just always remember with the activities such as something about their family or what they did this summer, remind them it doesn't have to be that they did anything outstanding. The expectation isn't that they all went on 4 amazing trips. They probably still slept. They probably ate something. You know, they might have taken a walk. That it doesn't have to be anything extravagant.
Correct.
Right?
And I also tell them you can also make it up. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be real either.
Absolutely.
It just, you know, it is just something to get some conversation going.
Okay. Go ahead.
And something that we can do to promote the use of the target language right from throughout the year would be use the target language consistently ourselves. So as Nicole said, we are supposed to be using, or our goal is to immerse these students in the language and to be using the target language 90% of the time. Start with greetings, whether start with small talk, commands used on a daily basis. This to me is important. The students, again, you know, these are something that if you repeat them enough and you gesture enough, the students will know and they will acquire this naturally, not because they've read it, not because they've studied or gone over the Quizlet cards that we've given them, but because they see it and they hear it and they know it. Like, take out your book, open your book, read, write, and they're going to start doing these naturally, not because they have studied it. So I think that using all these together, the greetings, the dates, the weather, the commands, just helps the students, connect to the language and acquire this language in a very natural way. And something else that I love having in my classroom is go-to sentence frames and phrases. And I think that someone was talking about sentence frames right at the beginning when we were talking about target language input, right? So go-to sentence frames and phrases are something that I love using in my classroom. Phrases like, no way, how can they express the same as no way in Spanish? Or, oh my gosh, I don't believe you, that's not true, that's great, well done. So anytime anytime there's an opportunity to use any of these phrases, then the students can go to these phrases and use them in the target language. So it just makes things flow really, really well in the classroom. And of course, sentence frames. I think that, in my opinion, I agree, I disagree, or I don't think that. Having a reference, I like to have a visual reference of this at the beginning. It just helps. It helps the student be able to take a look at that sentence, take a look at that word for a minute, and then go, oh, no way, or I don't believe that, or I don't think so, or I agree. So these are very little things that we can do that make a huge difference in the classroom, or at least they've made a huge difference in my classroom. But I'd love to hear what it is that that we all think, or what other ideas we have.
So if anyone would like to either jump on the microphone or put it in the chat, we could put in some ideas now.
I use sentence frames for everything. So like the ones you're referencing here, this would be a great anchor chart. And it's like a choice board for the children to know what are appropriate expected responses so they can choose one. But also for learning new vocabulary like colors or animals or seasons or weather, I can put those up too and put sentence frames with my anchor chart. This season is blank, or my favorite color is blank. So they have that as a scaffold, and they're focusing their task just on identifying vocabulary. Otherwise, they're scrambling, looking how to form the sentence and trying to use the vocabulary, and it's a little overwhelming.
Exactly. And that's really important for us to remember, that sometimes we're almost harder on our learners in the world languages programs when, we all know of, and it's actually not necessarily true of this group at all, but we all know of teachers who, kind of insist that the students have everything completely memorized and also able to be manipulated with accuracy, right from the beginning of their study of the language, when in reality, that's not a reasonable expectation. That's not actually how students are going to acquire and use language. There's going to be mistakes. It's going to be messy. They're going to need some supports. They'll need some guidance. They'll need significant modeling of examples. And as I said earlier, and as Krista said, supports with sentence frames and things they can draw on that help remind them what those sentence frames mean, so that if you put a picture with the phrase, I think that, right, it reminds them, oh, that's right, that's the sentence frame for talking about what I think. You know what I mean? So that they can be successful. And I think Krista, I saw just put something in the chat for the affective filter. Yes. And this is true, fortunately, like something that we as world language teachers also recognize. We've got to get students to the point where they are comfortable with themselves as learners in a class, and comfortable enough to actually try using the language, knowing that we are all in a community of learners together, and we are all going to be, sharing this new language. There's going to be mistakes, and we've come to an agreement as a class on how we respond to each other to be supportive of everyone's use of language whenever something goes wrong. And we do things with our grading and with how we do practice and with how we do assessment, so that the students are always feeling like they are able to move forward.
Correct. One of the questions was, what are some strategies teachers can use to build comprehensible input, comprehensible target language into all interactions with learners outside of lesson input specifically? So one of the things we thought is that we can maximize the target language input by using strategies that will help ensure comprehension. Now, something that we have to make sure we understand is that students are not supposed to understand everything, but we can use the strategies to maximize the target language input and the comprehension that the students are getting by using simultaneous strategies like simultaneous gestures, visuals, to help support the information that we're giving them and allowing students to comprehend while still maintaining the use of the target language in classroom. Gestures, open the book, right? Right. Visuals, simplify the complexity of the output that we're requesting from them. Also, written support, slow down, repeat. All these are some strategies, easy strategies that we can use. Nicole, the next is the video. Do you want me to skip the video? Should we, what would you like to do?
Actually, go ahead. Can you do me a favor, actually, and stop sharing, because for the video to work, we have to share and make sure we turn on the computer audio. So if you stop, I'll start and I'll get us caught up in just a second here. Here we go. Yeah, we are going to take a look at this video. Give me 1 second to get there. There we go. Sorry, here we go. All right, I'm gonna need to scan this forward a little bit for you. This was a really interesting, actually no, this one we're gonna start at the beginning. This is very short, but it just helps us. And I realize that in this room, I think we're all well grounded in this, but when you get the link to the slide deck, you might find this supportive for perhaps others who may be struggling to understand why it's so important to not just speak the target language, that there's more to comprehensible input than talking or signing in the target language. So you should be able to hear when I hit play. Let's hope this works.
Zdravo, učiteljice. Uzmite papir. Podelite na papir na pola. Na jednu stranu nacrtajte oči. Na drugu stranu nacrtajte uši. Dobro. Well, how did you do? Were you able to complete the task that I asked you to complete?
Did you know there was a task? Just curious.
Were you able to understand the language? Probably not. I'm going to try the same demonstration, only this time I'm going to use some comprehensible input strategies. Let's see if you're more successful this time. Zdravo, učiteljice. Zdravo. Moje ime je Valentina. Moje ime je Valentina. Zdravo. Uzmite jedan papir. Papir. Uzmite papir. Podelite na pola. Podelite papir na pola. Podelite na pola. Papir podeli na pola. Dobro. Na jednu stranu nacrtajte oči. Čekaj. Oči. 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 Na jednu stranu nacrtajte oči. Na drugu stranu nacrtajte uši. 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 Na drugu stranu nacrtajte uši. 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 Dobro.
So I know what she's going to say next, so I'll just take it from there. Was there a difference between what you understood the first time she said everything versus the second time? if you heard me. Oh, there we go. And it's okay. We're a small group. If you'd like to use microphones, you can. Right? Huge difference, right? And I don't think any of us in this room speak the language that she was speaking. In fact, I have forgotten
Serbian, I believe.
All right.
You are correct. That is exactly it. Thank you. That is what it was as soon as you said it. So she was, and the things that, if you go back and watch this video again, you'll realize that, yeah, that's exactly what she said in that first chunk that was only for 30 seconds or 40, you know, of all the things she wanted. She introduced herself and then wanted people to get the paper and then fold the paper and then draw the eyes on the one side and the ears on the other. And none of us even realized that we had been asked to do a task, let alone that she had introduced herself. So that when she did it, yes. So that when she did it the first time, or rather the second time, it was much more obvious. We noticed where she said hello. We noticed exactly the point was, oh, she's introducing herself now. That's nice of her. I'm glad to know what her name is. And then she started giving some instructions and she had the paper and she demonstrated what she wanted us to do with the paper. And she repeated almost everything she said at least twice, if not 3 times, so that we could process it along with that visual input that we were seeing. Right. So I actually had kind of stumbled across this video and I thought actually it's, you know, it's a good example to remind us of just how important the other parts of comprehensible input are beyond speaking the target language. What a difference it makes when we put all of that together, the repetition, with it being contextualized with objects or gestures or both, or modeling in order to support the learners. Karina, I can click here, but I think you actually built this slide. So do you want to talk a little bit about it? I'll start.
Sure. So, as we saw some of the strategies that we can use, right, to increase the comprehension of the target language input. The question here is, what can we do to help students use the target language with increased comfort and frequency outside of specific learning activities and assessments? So what can we do to encourage students to use the target language amongst themselves when we're not watching in our classroom or even outside of the classroom? So we talked about this already, right? We talked about the fact that our students benefit greatly from scaffolds in order to speak, and sentence frames is one of those great things. They are vital and they should be used right off the start with plenty of repetition. And the sentence frames that we provide to the students are going to grow and they are going to change. And as we add and modify things to best suit the different topics that we are presenting to them in class. But as we talked about it, you know, scaffolding is critical, and sentence frames are just absolutely vital for the students to get some comfort in using the language. Time. So something that I like to think that I would like for all of us to pay attention to in this part is the fact that giving the students time is absolutely critical. It is essential. If we think about it, students freeze in classroom whenever they have to speak in front of other people, right? And this happens in classes where they use their native language, right? So it doesn't, you know, imagine if they freak out when they are using their native language, the anxiety level, you know, triples when they are in a, you know, Spanish class or French class or ASL class or, you know, Chinese, Japanese class, and they are asked to give an answer in that language. So we're putting them in the spot, and that's definitely something that is going to, you know, that is going to, for most of the students, not want them to participate, because they are going to be so anxious and so nervous, because that's a terrifying experience for many of our students. So it is a good strategy is to ask the question to the class, let them think about it. Maybe you can even do think per share, and then say that you would like either a volunteer or that you will pick someone to do that. would be a good thing. Pictures, as we know, pictures are critical so that they can get context on what it is that they are going to be talking about. And then vocabulary, obviously, we must make sure that we give our students the vocabulary that they need in order for them to be able to talk about something. We can't expect them to talk about something if we have not provided the vocabulary for them to use. And the last thing,
sorry, Karina, that goes back also to the repetition that the students will need, so that not only do they need the vocabulary once, but they need it over and over again, used in context with the sentence frames, with the time to think and process and use it, with the pictures to support them. And that combination of these and the next thing that Karina is going to say, taken together along with like happening over and over consistently with a lot of repetition, is where we're going to see our students eventually being able to just own those memorized words and phrases until they get more proficient and start manipulating the language, so that they can in fact participate in the target language, you know, to the best ability that they are able to, and we can celebrate that.
Absolutely. And the last one, we all know safe space. Absolutely critical so that they are willing to participate. So providing a safe space for them along with sentence frames that they can use, and the vocabulary will make them feel more comfortable. I think someone was talking in the chat about lowering the affective filter. I believe I saw something about that in the chat. Well, we have to make sure that we create this environment in our language class where students know that they're safe, they're not going to be made fun of, and you know, it is okay for them to use the language. We want them to use the language. They don't have to use it perfectly. They just have to try, and the effort is what we are going to celebrate.
I'm going to take over from here. I'm going to be putting a link in the chat, and we're going to crowdsource some examples because we want you to leave here today with some resources in addition to the slide deck. And we also recognize that there is a lot of expertise here in this room. And so you saw earlier a couple of sentence frames such as, I think that ... I like ... I don't like ... right? Those are some sentence frames. So we want to add some examples. I'm going to get the link to the Jamboard first, and then I'm going to take you there. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get my thing to escape. There we go. Hold on a second. Sorry. My thing just went a little bit crazy here. Okay. All right. Let me grab this link and put it in the chat for you. And then in case you haven't used one before, this is something you'll actually be able to contribute to, and you'll always have the link to it. Sorry, I'm headed into the chat right now. There we go. You may need to copy and paste the link if it doesn't appear to you as a link. So I'm going to head over to that Jamboard now. You can head there by clicking on the link in your chat. A Jamboard is basically just a big blank bulletin board. It's nowhere near as robust as Padlet, just so that you know. And if you would like to use it with learners, you do need to know that there is simply no moderation at all, meaning whatever they type or put on that or draw on that Jamboard is immediately visible to everybody. So you do want to be thoughtful about whether all of your learners are ready for that level of access, or if you have learners who might be prone to making some poor choices with that level of access. So on the left-hand side, you have some tools such as a pen tool, but below the big arrow, there's a little sticky note tool. If you click on it, it brings up a thing like this where you can choose your color and you can type. And that's virtually all you can do. So if I add the sentence frame, I like, and I hit save, it's going to go here. I can now drag it around. Sorry, I can drag it around. I can make it bigger. Sorry, that's the rotate button. I can make it bigger. I can rotate it back because I fiddled with it, right? I can make it smaller. I can move it. That's about all we're going to do. Right? So it's a very simple tool. So I added one sample of a sentence frame that I have found to be very useful that my year one learners can go to town with, because they can talk about things they like. They can talk about activities they like. That sentence frame is very powerful. So now you all should have, unless I did something wrong, that link should allow you to click on the sticky note icon. You may use any colors you want, of course. And you can type your, exactly, perfect. So you can type your favorite sentence frames, and then you can drag them in case you accidentally, you know, find yourself on top of somebody else's sentence frame. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of minutes to do that. I really like the I feel such and such because what we're doing there is we're giving the learners a chunk to express more complex ideas that they would not have been able to successfully do on their own. But with this sentence frame, they can say quite a lot. And I like how we're starting to see one now that popped up. I think it's going to move. There we go. We see one now that popped up that starts helping learners successfully work with other time frames. And at first, we support them to do that by providing them the structure. Just there it is. You can just use it. It's okay if you don't understand what it is or why it worked. You just know what it means, and that's fine. And you can fill in the rest of that sentence with what you ate yesterday, and it's going to work great. When they get enough of opportunities of hearing that being done by other speakers, including the teacher, as well as doing it themselves, then learning the new structure of the preterite, for example, will be much, much easier. We don't have to wait till year 2, for example, to have them start to say things that happened yesterday. If we provide them with sentence frames and we've made it clear contextually that we're talking about yesterday, they're going to be fine. They know that this happened yesterday. They don't have to understand grammatically why it says that. Maybe one more minute. All right. You can actually, if a new one occurs to you, you can actually come right, oh yes, I need, that's a great one. You can come back to this and add more, right? It's going to continue to be editable. It's not like we're going to freeze it and you can't add anything else ever. So if you think of some other ones that you realize are really powerful and helpful to your learners to communicate their ideas with success, then you can continue adding. Because I think these are ones that as we put them into our respective target languages, we can really support learners to share ideas in a way that is, that respects where they are at in terms of their proficiency, especially when they are still in the novice range. I know that that's named differently in ELD, but yes. Nice. Okay. I'm going to bring us back. Let me see if I have anything on here. Okay. And one of the other things Karina talked about, if you go to the top of your board, it says 1 of 12. Don't go to all 12s. They're secret. It's not time for you to do all those yet. However, if you click the right-hand arrow, you can go on, when you're done with the sentence frames, you can go on to board number 2, which are your favorite strategies to make speaking a new language safe for all learners. So I'll give you a little bit of time to think about that as well. And then actually board 3 is your favorite quick speaking activities, such as conversation cards, barrier games, right? And I think number 4 is, what about intermediate learners? As they work to acquire new skills, their language gets messier and confidence can wane. So what are your strategies to support those learners, right? Because sometimes their confidence actually goes down as their proficiency is inching upward. because they start recognizing that their ideas are getting more complex and they're struggling more to communicate their ideas, and they seem to be making more mistakes because it's not just memorized chunks anymore. So how do we support them? So if you can go anywhere from boards 1 through 4 and put in any ideas that you have. Sound good? As you're working, I'll say an idea that just occurred to me. If you do decide to use this in class, one of the things you can do is use the color coding of the notes for different tasks, right? So that learners put different kinds of words or phrases on different colors. You can also, as you could see, you could pre-create the board and then have learners sort it, you know, in some way. Just remember that all of them, there's, you know, you'd be giving edit permission to all of them at the same time. So that could get a little bit messy. But because you can move things around, you could, for example, if you're in an in-person setting, if we are able to have those safely this fall and any number of days in the week, or in a synchronized Zoom meeting, once you teach them how to get there, right? You put the link in the chat and they show up here. You could, for example, call on a student to take one of the items and move it into the correct column and then call on another student. So you could do some sorting work with something like this as well. I give you about 2 more minutes. If you've got 1 or 2 things on board 2, try to go on to board 3, and then same for board 4. About 1 more minute. I think we're going to want an explanation of me in a bag. I have a suspicion what it is, but we may want to hear more about that. So what I'm seeing here are a lot of things that, if they are terms you're not familiar with, I recognize some of them from both just elementary settings in general, as well as ELD and GLAD strategies and so on. Feel free to Google them because I think you can find some of them really powerful anchor charts, as well as, what did I just see on one of visual thinking strategies are incredible. Really helping students visualize and making their thinking visible is also critical. So there's a lot of good techniques and strategies here that you can use. Thank you for explaining it. Bring in objects that have to do with you because you like them. They're like in a bag and you can draw one out and talk about it and so on. Lineups, I love lineups based on whatever, based on your age, length of hair, favorite, all kinds of things. Labeling is awesome. Now, I will note also that on slide 2, a lot of the things that you found make language learning safe for all learners will also apply to slide 4. Like they still need that support. They still need that support that you all listed on slide 2. In addition to, kind of some specific support, recognizing that they are in the exact right spot on their learning journey, and that spot includes places where they will falter, places where they'll start finding it harder to, grasp the details that from the readings or the things they're listening to or viewing, and that's okay. That's part of the journey. And as they get closer to being advanced rather than intermediate, they'll hit a point where they'll realize that they're there, because it suddenly stops being so messy. It stops being so hard for them to put the sentences together to say what they want to say. They just don't have to think so hard about it and so on. But they have to go, they have to go through that messiness first. And that we're going to support them with visual cues. We're going to support them with other supports prior to having them try to speak in a spontaneous and open-ended way where they're manipulating language on their own. We're going to provide them extensive authentic resources, and we're going to do that from the very beginning, because that's actually going to support their success. If we don't hold all the authentic resources until they're in year 3, right? That tends to kind of actually breed a little bit of fear, because they're like, oh, this must be hard. They haven't even let us look at stuff like this until now, right? So we want to thoughtfully and strategically bring in authentic resources with a task that is appropriate for the students' range of proficiency, such as just memorized words and phrases that they can identify from the authentic resources. Yeah, sentence patterning charts. So that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's a GLAD strategy, right? Where the students are going to start showing that, there's a way in which sentences are put together in these target languages, and that there's a pattern to it. And so they actually analyze on a very concrete level what the structure is and how it works in the sentence, and what the pattern is, so that if they need to, they can fall back on that pattern to help them produce those sentences correctly. Okay, so we are, not surprisingly, we're only 12 minutes away already from our end of our session. So what I'd like to do is kind of preview what I'm going to have us do. And we will almost get there. We're so close. So I have an article that I'm going to put in the chat. So I am back in the Zoom room. I'm not in the Jamboard right now, although we will be heading back there. So you can kind of keep that tab open. I'm going to link a new article in the chat about empowering students to use the target language. And what I'd like everyone to do is to first quickly, it's to very quickly scan through the first page. And we are not going to be able to have as many breakout groups as I thought. Let's see what I can do here. Well, here's the link to the article. Let me think through my math here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine a couple of groups together. Breakout strategy 1 on page 4. So we're just going to say pages 4 to 5. This is how you get when you do this enough. You just fix it. Pages 4 to 5. There we go. And then, so your task is going to be here in a moment. It's going to be really important that you open the article before I put you into the breakout rooms, because that way, and kind of get to the page or pages that you are responsible for. and I will edit the Jamboards while you are working on that, while you're reading. So what you're going to do is you're going to read. You may not quite finish because I actually thought we had some more participants, but we all know how summer goes. It can be difficult to get it motivated to do these extra things when we need a break so badly. So I really appreciate you all being here. So what we're going to do is read a bit and add some key ideas, takeaways, and questions to the Jamboard. You can go back and forth and do that at the same time. So it's actually going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 Jamboards. So 5, 6, 7, 8. It's going to be Jamboards 5 through 8. And that's going to be breakout group 4. All right. So did everybody, I hope, get the article out of the chat and it's open? So you're going to read pages 1 to 2 if you're in breakout group 1. You'll see in a minute which group you're in. Page 3 if you're in breakout group 2. Group 3 will do pages 4 to 5, and group 4 will do pages 6 to 7. And it will just be whatever ideas, takeaways, or questions you're able to put into the Jamboard within the next 9 minutes or so. Okay, so I'm going to put you into your breakout groups. I'm going to set up 4 breakout groups, and you're going to go in randomly. Remember to get the link to open up the article before you go. Hold on a second. It did a weird thing. Breakout rooms. Okay, hold on. Zoom. There we go. 4 automatically. 2. Yep. Create breakout rooms. It's going to be about 2 people per room. Remember that I will call out to you again what your assignment is in the article in case you have forgotten. Okay, so here you go. You're going to go to the rooms. Okay. And I'm going to go to so we have everyone back. I've got us on the Jamboard. I'm going to encourage you to feel free to take a look at the Jamboard. And this is, again, a living document. So you can actually add more ideas here if you would like for everybody. But we already have some ideas from every single group in case you never have time to read the rest of the article. But you do have the link to the article in the slide deck, which I am currently putting in the chat for you now. So this is the link to the slide deck for today. That will get you back to this Jamboard. It will get you the article, the video we watched a little bit earlier, everything that Karina shared, and so on. So we have, again, some really good content already in the Jamboard, even with that brief scanning activity, which is a good reminder to us that even with our learners, even if we only give them a couple of minutes, they can probably pull out some key ideas. And it's okay for them not to have to worry about the rest right now. We can always have them read again for a new purpose. In fact, it's awesome to have them read for one purpose one day, such as only the main idea, and then give them the same document the next day and have them tell me how it's organized. If like in year one, like a menu, they look at it the first day and go, I think this is a menu. Cool, awesome. We're gonna look at it now, maybe practice with it a little bit. Then the next day we give them the menu back and say, tell me how it's organized. And so you can have them go back into even a very simple document multiple times for different purposes. We only have a couple of slides left, but I want to make sure that you know about them because we are at the end of our time. So there are sites that you can use to get additional sentence frames. So we had built together kind of a crowdsourced list of sentence frames, but you can find more at Achieve the Core and at TeachThought. And in French and in Spanish, you can see some sentence frames here that you are welcome to borrow and add into your learning experiences. Karina, is there anything really quickly you wanted to add on that? You might be muted.
That's it. You said it all.
Okay. And then Unsplash is in fact a great place to get copyright-free images. Please, please, please model for your users and your learners rather appropriate use of technology. Unsplash is one place to get them. If you are in Google Slides and you click on the little explore button in the lower right-hand corner that you might have ignored all this time because they don't make it obvious that that's actually something to click on, it brings up a Google search page. It starts on the web, like you're going to search the web, but it actually says images. You can click on images, and every image that it returns is an image that you are free to use, modify, or share. So you can actually also get some copyright-free images there, and it's a good thing to know about all of those. And that link, again, is here in the slide deck for you. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. We came very close to ending exactly on time. Thank you for your participation. I will be sending the attendance report to Loretta Nass, our clerk in our department, and she'll be taking care of marking your attendance in professional learning. And I want to again extend a great big thank you to Karina for everything she did to really pull together some amazing content for us today.
Thank you, Nicole.
Oh, you're welcome. How did you create the board? You can actually go to jamboard.google.com. And when you're there, and I do have another presentation in less than a half hour, so I'm going to need to jump off soon. But when you're there, the only trick to it, to know you can add new boards at any time. That's actually super easy. Sorry, I have my tools in the way though, so I can't see. There we go. Oops. So if I needed a new board, literally I would just keep typing and I click and it's going to get, now I have 11 boards that have nothing on them. And up here I can delete or duplicate a board. So if you have a pattern that you're using over multiple boards, you can actually duplicate it so you don't have to recreate it. And the way you share is with the share button. If your students need to manipulate it, you need to make sure that you change this area where it says get link, change it because it won't be set to where anyone can do it. So change it so that it'll start as restricted, meaning even if you give them the link, it will not work. Google has changed their sharing interface and I hate it. So everything now, Google Docs, Google Slides defaults to restricted. And if you copy that link, people still will not be able to open it. Sigh. So change it to San Juan Unified or anyone with the link. Also change their permission from viewer to editor, then hit done. Sorry about that. Don't hit done. That'll be wrong. Then hit copy link. So when you put change, and that's another, people tend to hit the big blue button and they still never copied the link. So get the settings the way you want them and copy the link and give that to your students or your colleagues or whatever. That's how we created it. Thanks again, everybody. It's all free. It is completely free, 100% free, but no moderation, meaning the students can type or draw anything they want and it will be automatically visible. All right. I'm going to end this meeting, which will end the recording. Thanks again for coming this morning. I might be seeing some of you in the next session, but regardless whether I do or not, please have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Bye.